first time ever.
Hear you loud and clearly.
And it was going place.
That stuff's great.
But the game is not a roguelike.
Boomer shooter.
Bang.
Hello, this is John St. John, and you're listening to KEEP in the Keep, bringing you all the hits from the finest in the world of gaming and entertainment. Now sit back and relax as the drowned god Kathala lulls your mind with the tastiest talk in town.
Welcome to another chapter of In the Keep podcast. I'm your very own prophet of the drowned god, the Motherlode. The Keep is a collective of gaming enthusiasts compelled by the drowned god Kathala to frag and jib one another into oblivion for all eternity. Alrighty, welcome to another rousing episode of In the Keep podcast. I'm your host, the Motherlode, and today we have Kaapeli, the Texan from the far north. I don't know what we're calling him these days.
Yeah, you're pretty much right about that. Yeah, I just always like to joke about myself that I'm from Texas, Finland.
So, for the occasion, brought me some Finlandia.
Oh, that is magnificent.
Some vodka from the homeland, and be mixing it with a little bit of grapefruit seltzer because it's my favorite. And yourself, what do you got there?
I myself have Hardwell's original gin and orange here. It's magnificent. It's actually the best sort of like original drink here. It's like that's the name, original, rather.
So the last time you were on the show, which was like well over a year ago now, I think.
It was, yeah, probably like 1.5 years, yeah.
I think we must acknowledge that old Motherlode was not at his best. I'd had a really good night before the interview. Still had a good night through the interview, but I don't remember any of it. So let's do it again.
Yeah, I do agree. But we sort of had to do it again. I even have like a whole list of topics I could actually talk about. This time I have them. How would I say? Well arranged, because like in the last episode there were like the topics were all over the place. Basically, I was like talking about Golds of FPS, and then an hour later I was talking about again Golds of FPS. Then it was less about me and more about like how, for example, the source engine came to be. Like I even started explaining like how much knowledge I had of the history, which was sort of about me, but like I explained for some reason like why the source engine actually just came to be. I don't know.
Well, I think what's so interesting about you is that you're very much like a Renaissance man. So like,
yeah,
it's hard to I had this problem too when the first time I was on. I think I was on QuakeCast, and at one point they asked me like, "So what is it you do?" And I had the worst time answering that question because like, well, I run a Discord server, but I also do a podcast, and I at the time I didn't really do as much as I do now, but like, well, I do event production, and I do shoutcasting, and consult with game developers on all kinds of things because I talk to them all the time. So I kind of have like all these weird bits of knowledge that I've acquired over a few years of doing this shit, and like I don't know what the fuck to tell people. Like, what do you do? What's your job title? Like now it's easy. I'm the CEO of In the Keep. Suck my dick.
Yeah.
But for you, it's like you're like the historian of FPS, and you're also like a shoutcaster, and even recently you've become I will say game developer. You're going to say I'm a Doom modder, but I don't even like when people say that. Like they're like, I'm a Doom modder. I'm like, yeah, but you're a game developer. You just work within the Doom engine, right? Like,
yeah,
you'll figure that how to make money later or some shit. But like, so what's on your mind? How have you been, and what are you thinking about these days?
Well, actually, yeah, but the last time I was in this podcast, it was like just before I started my military service, and now it's finally over. It has been for like 3 months, but like I did a whole year service in the military. Basically, you have a choice to be either for 6 months, 9 months, or 12 months here in Finland in the military, and you have little to no control over it yourself. I mean, you can propose your willingness on like how long you can actually be there, but like I even myself wanted only to be 9 months. But I was still chosen to be an NCO student, basically, and I even got ranked up to corporal at the end of my service. But I was there for a whole year. But after that, I've started my studies now in January in IT engineering, basically in a University of Applied Sciences. And because of that, I would say developing Insanity Deathmatch and just streaming Golds of FPS has been like very much on the secondary part, like only 10% of my time. And basically I would say 80% of me is just like now studying, and the other 10% is just basically me eating or sleeping. Basically, that's what it is. That's student's life right there.
Oh man, I do not envy the student life. I have no intention of, if I ever go back to college, it'll just be for fun. It'll be like to do, I don't know, I'll study like theology or some shit that has no bearing in my career, because I don't know, I think when I grow up, I know what I want to be, kind of thing. That like, so it's kind of hard to tell people that, because a lot of people, I hate this idea, and it's different in Europe than it is in America, of course. Like you guys don't go into debt for college so much. There is no fucking way I would recommend anybody, unless they're going to be like a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer. Yeah. Don't fucking go to college. Fuck all that shit. But like, if it's fucking free, like, yeah, definitely like take advantage of that. So you're going into IT engineering?
Yeah.
That's going to be very useful for you as a streamer and broadcaster in the future, I foresee. So at least it's like kind of, I mean, you could probably find a job, just a job, but I mean, you will be able to dramatically improve your product that you currently put out into the world anyway, as a result of what you're studying. So something useful. If you're going to go to college, kids, do something fucking useful, or else go like learn a trade, like learn to swing a hammer.
Yeah.
That's what I did. Look at me now.
I mean, basically I had these studies for like, basically even before my military, just right when I graduated from high school. I immediately took the exams here in the frigging school I'm currently studying in, where I'm not actually studying in there. I'm just like, obviously, because of the pandemic, I'm just studying at home. But I did the exam there, and that was the only time I actually have been in the that building. And I've had the place in the studies for like 1.5 years before I actually started them. And from here on, they will take approximately 4 years. Yeah, they will end in December 2023 if things actually go well. Hopefully they do. But you're pretty much right. The student counselor also said that I would be very good, since I have the experience in media and streaming and stuff like that. I would be very good in the sort of media side jobs and just IT engineering, and maybe I would have like some kind of a possibility there.
Yeah, I mean, you're an experienced broadcaster. The thing is, you got your hands dirty in the industry you wanted to be in before you entered into any kind of like higher education for it. So a lot of dudes and ladies and in between folk who we love and respect go to school. Like in America, it's like as soon as you finish high school, you go straight to college, because they've told you that's what you have to do, or else you'll be nothing. Like there's literally this kind of propagandized culture around it. Like you'll never be anything if you don't go to college. Like I remember my teacher telling me that in like my 12th grade year, because I was telling him like, I'm not going to college. And he's like, well, why not? I'm like, well, because I'm going to do all this other shit that doesn't require me to do that. Like I'm going to be a pro wrestler or some, I don't know what I was thinking at the time, but I was like, I'm going to go on an adventure and do shit with my life. And he literally told me like, whoa, we're just going to be a fucking flunky for the rest of your life. You're never going to make anything of yourself. And I was just like, all right, fuck you. I'll show you. And I think of, Biggie Smalls in that song where is it Juicy? Where he's like, this one goes out all the teachers that said I would never fucking be anything.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean,
there he was
rolling in cash. But So I actually wanted to start off before we go on your list of topics. I actually just recently interviewed Jordan Moshi, who did Conscript. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that game, but the game is about being a conscripted soldier in France during World War One. So you're in the trenches of Verdun, and we talked a lot about just the nature of being conscripted into the military. Now, as you know, in America, it's a totally voluntary force, so I have no idea of what it's like to just kind of be told, like, you're just going to go join the fucking military. And I kind of wanted to get a little bit of your, like, what was your year of being, is it the Finnish Guard? What do you guys call it?
Basically the Finnish Armed Forces. That's what it is.
Okay.
But that's where I signed up in, actually. And
so the equivalent of that to our American audience would be like the National Guard, essentially. Yeah. So what was that experience like for you, man? What did you learn?
Well, basically, I just like as an NCO, because I was first an NCO student for like 3 months or so, and then I ranked up into a corporal. But basically, when I was an NCO, I had like a great lesson to keep up more responsibility of my own life and my basically my own conscripts or privates, whatever you want to call them. It's like my own recruits. I led them and taught them and everything. It's like, and I basically there's the option to be either an NCO or a reserve officer in the conscript here in the conscript army in Finland, and I went to be an NCO, and I wanted to be an NCO myself only because I wanted to, like, how would I say, train the privates more than just lead them. There's like basically two different things, and those actually determine like where you're better at. But the reserve officers that were selected to be in the reserve officer school later on, they were mostly the leaders, and they ranked up into second lieutenants at the end of their service. Yeah.
So to clarify for our non-military folk out there, an NCO is a non-commissioned officer.
Yes.
And what he's referring to, like when you become from lieutenant to, captain, major, and so on, up to general, these are called commissioned officers.
Yes.
So the difference, and it's, you guys have a different system, but in America, it's like in order to become a commissioned officer, you have to already have a college degree, and there are programs that some people go through, like a ROTC program or something like that, or OTS if they just join the military having the degree already, in which case they become, the quote leaders, officers of the military. Now, a non-commissioned officer is an enlisted person, or in your case, conscripted person.
Yeah, conscripted.
Who is a tradesman. So like they train you in some sort of skill, whatever that happens to be, that's useful to the military. And then you can it's different for you guys in America, like for years, like 3 or 4, maybe 5 years, you work your way up through the lower ranks to eventually become an NCO. And then you can, essentially at that point, you take on the duty of leading. You go from being strictly a follower to someone who has, troops underneath them that you take care of and you help them through their career. So we're just using a lot of like terminology. I was afraid a lot of the audience would just lose them quickly. So
it's good. Yeah, it's good you're using that. Basically, well, the same goes here in Finland. If you want to be like an active duty NCO or like a commissioned officer, either a lieutenant or captain, so on, you have to have, for an NCO, an active duty NCO, you have to have a second level degree, basically, upper second level degree. It's either a university or college, even. I don't know. Well, what's college here is just basically your university here. But just like some kind of a higher upper second level degree to be an NCO on active duty. But then if you want to be like a lieutenant in active duty, you first have to attend a cadet school here. And then first you rank up into a cadet, then just study there for like, I believe, 3 years. Then you rank up into a lieutenant. be as a lieutenant in the armed forces for a while and train and lead the conscripts, whether they be only privates or just NCOs or even reserve officers. You train basically all of them. And yeah.
No, I was going to say that the joke in America, kind of the equivalent to what you're saying, is like if you were to address an NCO, right? And
Yeah.
this is in most branches, the Air Force being sort of there's a bit of a different culture in the Air Force, but so like you refer to an officer as a sir, right? You're like, or ma'am,
Yeah.
essentially like and this is to reflect it's like if you were knighted, right? If you were in a monarchy and you were knighted by a queen or a king, and they say like, okay, stand and rise as a knight, and you are now a leader officer of their military at that point. So a commissioned officer sort of acts in that rank, and so then we call them sir or ma'am. And then NCOs, if you call an NCO like, yes, sir, to an NCO, their response is always like, don't you ever call me that shit again. Don't call me sir. I work for a living, which is like to imply that the commissioned officer, which they do, obviously.
Yeah.
There's a reason why like generals are like 40 to 50 years old and they look like they're about 80 because they're under a lot of stress.
Yeah.
They make a lot of really hard decisions all
It
day
isn't
long.
much different here in Finland either. It's like every general just looks like they're in the freaking pension age.
Yeah, and then your like senior enlisted guys look like they're about 95.
Yeah.
And they're like, they've worked hard, like they do manual fucking labor their whole life just to get paid less than half of what a major gets paid or whatever. But it's funny, man. I love the culture surrounding that whole deal.
It is. It's fantastic.
What did you learn about like just people and leadership and brotherhood and all that stuff? Like I'm sure it was a beautiful experience just being locked away. And this is during COVID for the whole time for you too.
Oh
so
yes, this was during like very, very special times because like the normal schedule before the pandemic was that you were 5 days in a week, basically Monday through Friday. You were in the military, you couldn't get like home at all. But during the weekend, you were let home for a weekend leave, basically. And on special occasions, whether those be like if your company needed to be on a military training exercise in the woods, for instance, it may be 2 weeks, but on very like specific occasions. And every time we just heard that we were like closed down for 2 weeks. Now this was before the pandemic. We were like, oh crap, oh shit. And we only got a weekend leave the next week. So we were like, 12 days locked down. But then it was, I remember it was actually Friday the 13th of March, very fittingly. And we were, at that very week, we were supposed to be going on a weekend leave. And at that very day too. And I remember those the same crewmates on my room. Basically, they're just like hyping up. It's like, yeah, let's go holidays today right now. And during the morning, somebody read the news in the Defense Forces site that they're actually devising a schedule where you're closed down for 2 weeks and then go on a week leave. And this was basically, it's hard to explain, but like our brigade was like divided into 3 groups. One would be in the inside the brigade for a week. The other would be on a military training exercise for a week, and then the third one would be on a week leave. And this shift would just like switch between each week. And we were just hoping that we would just go on a week leave immediately after just hearing all this. But as soon as our company captain basically said that we're actually staying here, everybody was disappointed. It's like, oh crap, we're staying for another week. This is betrayal. But we pulled it through. We were like, holy crap, just imagining it. After this week, it's going to be a week leave, guys. And it so did happen. And on the 27th, which was during this week leave that I actually had, I was like amazed myself how long it was and how long it felt compared to those weekend leaves. But on the 27th of March, which was my 20th birthday, the Defense Forces, once again, as they learned more and more about COVID, for instance, with the quarantine times, they devised a new schedule that was going to be a doubled version of the 2-week and 1-week system. So we were basically, next time we went back to the company and to the brigade, we were closed down for a whole 4-week period. So the first 2 weeks, and it even started with a 2-week military exercise, and then a 2-week lockdown inside the brigade, and then we got a 2-week leave. So we got home for like 2 weeks. And with that schedule, it's just I pulled it through with that whole schedule during my whole, like, well, not whole year, but like the rest of the year, basically from March to December onwards.
I mean, it must have been really. I was about to say fun, but just a different experience to go from being a straight up civilian to like, following orders all the time, and like you learn to trust, I guess, the people above you, right? Like or at least you learn to, even if you don't trust them, to just do what the fuck they say, shut up and like let it happen. It's kind of like my old boss, man, way back in the day, when I was an electrician's apprentice, he would tell us sometimes, like, you get a raw deal, with the contractors, and then he'd be like, "Son, sometimes it's just best to bend over and close your eyes and wait till it's over."
Yeah,
and that was good advice, like somehow or another. So I sent you a link because I was thinking about I'm not sure how I pronounce his name exactly, but Amo, is that Kovinen? I'm not sure how I pronounce this fucker's name.
You guys need to write it down somewhere.
I sent you a link, but the famous Finnish soldier. So during World War II, he his entire I'm not sure what division size this was, but basically his entire group was killed. And at the time, it was just a different time in military history. Everybody had a little bit of a stimulant, a little something to take the edge off and keep them fighting. Yeah. And so he took as a corporal, by the way, took all of the meth off of his dead comrades at one time. So like 16 servings or some shit of raw 1940s methamphetamine, and just went on a killing rampage and killed a literal fuck ton of soldiers who were invading.
Yeah.
And the Finnish army has this long-standing just tremendous amount of respect from other armed forces, right? Because you guys fight on skis. Did you learn how to do that?
No, it's good of you to mention that, because like I got skis during my recruits period, which was like 1.5 months long at the very first time I entered there. But I never used them because there was no snow. And 1.5 months later, after my recruit period was over, we just switched them to bicycles. That was pretty much it. Yeah. There was literally no snow around there. But you're very much right. It's just like why we have a conscripted military here is like, or why men here have an obligation to serve in the military. It's just, it has to do with, first of all, our history with the former Soviet Union, and then also because of our like very small population for a very big country. We only have 5.5 million here, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, there are literally cities in America with more people than are in the entire country of Finland. But the difference being that you guys have a reputation for being one of the most badass militaries there is. Because, like, what are you going to do? Motherfuckers skiing at you with a rifle. Like, and I mean, there's always the looming threat. I mean, you're in like a really precarious situation. You're standing right between Russia and the rest of Europe. And I mean, there's just so much responsibility on you guys to kind of take care of yourselves and your community and everything. And it's a different type of thing, because it bums me out, because I think a lot of Americans are kind of jaded about this. I mean, we have the quote, world's most powerful military, and it's an all volunteer force. So it's like less than, 1% of the entire population of this country that actually serves. And I'm not saying that anybody owes anybody anything, but it's just a matter of there are fewer people in this first world country with a honest perspective on what goes on everywhere else and why we are such a powerful nation and everything. And I salute you, man. Like, fuck yeah. You guys kick ass. I have a toast. Toast to all my brothers and sisters who have served in all the armed forces around the world.
Yeah, thank you. But
all right, so let's talk about video games.
Yeah, sure. It's fine. I could
No,
basically
if you have more to
talk
share.
about. Yeah, I could basically talk about my service all day, but like, yeah.
Well, you have the open reign. You requested, I want to come back on the show. I told you anytime you wanted. You could talk about anything you want, and I will sit here and listen to you.
Well, if I just may say one thing, the 4 week and 2 week periods, there's like a 4 week lockdown and 2 week on a leave. It got even worse when we got new recruits after basically when we ranked up to corporals, and we had to train them, and it was even harder for us. I would have thought it wouldn't get much harder than this, and it would just be more of a pain in the ass for the new recruits, but leading them and training them, getting them to places at a certain time, at a certain pace as well, was just very, very demanding. And that also just taught me very many things, and just like, I would say just like keeping my timetable up to date and everything like that, and just being fast and very punctual.
Being responsible for more than just yourself is very difficult.
Yeah,
right.
Very much. Yeah.
As a new recruit, you're literally responsible for like folding your underwear and making your bed, like that kind of shit. And then by the time you make it up to a certain point, you're like, did everyone else make their fold their underwear and make their bed? And do they know how to do things, or are they following like what they've been told? I totally understand, dude. It's a journey. it's a whole thing.
It is, yeah.
So Insanity Deathmatch. Tell us a little bit about Insanity Deathmatch. I've gotten the privilege to see a whole lot of gameplay up to now.
Well, yeah, but just recently, let's just say because of my studies have gotten in the way quite badly, I haven't developed Insanity Deathmatch a whole lot. Currently, I'm just developing the 0.95 version. And but if I may tell about its start, first of all, let's just say I got into Doom modding in 2015, I believe. Yeah, just at the very end of my secondary school, just before I attended in high school, basically. It was in 2015, and I did this project called Cataclysm, which I thought it would have it was sort of a Skulltaggers and Jonum thing with both single-player megawatt maps and also multiplayer thingies, so different weapons for deathmatch and different maps for deathmatch. The problem was, I had developed the weapons for it. I even composed a couple MIDIs for it, and that's also one contribution I have made to the Doom community. I'm sort of a MIDI composer as well, although my tracks are not very original. I've just mostly done covers of different tracks and everything like that. But
we featured a few of them on the show.
You have actually, yeah. I'm very grateful for that too. But it actually just didn't go anywhere because I couldn't make any maps myself. I thought, well, this is going to take way too long for me to make any maps, and I just disbanded the project for a while, and I just played others do mods as well instead. But basically, years later, in 2019, May 2019, I believe it was, I just sort of got back into it. I got back into just messing up with Slade. And for some reason, I don't know why, but for some reason I had this thought, what if all the weapons would just fire like the Super Shotgun did? Basically, how the Super Shotgun fires is, it fires 20 pellets at a certain spread. And what if all the weapons fired the same amount of projectiles or bullets, timed with the bullets as well, with the same spread? So the pistol shot exactly like the Super Shotgun, just with the pistol's rate of fire. Shotgun shot 7 times the pellets of Super Shotgun. So basically, what is that? 1,400. No, 140 actually. Yeah, sorry, it's multiplied too much there. But Super Shotgun did exactly the same. So it multiplied 20 times 20. So it's 400 pellets. and then rocket launcher shot 20 rockets at the spread of the super shotgun. BFG shot 20 BFG balls. I don't know why I did that, but yeah, then I decided to test that in deathmatch, and I found it to be obviously very, very off balance. but basically, I started just like developing it further. It's like, what if this is actually was more balanced? And then I developed like sort of a double-barreled. It wasn't double barrel, but it was like double rocket firing rocket launcher. And then I kept the super shotgun very powerful, but I nevertheless like buffed the other weapons, so it was actually actually made very balanced. But then I realized when I played it in multiplayer servers in Zandronum that a sort of a balancing mod had already been done. That was Eon weapons. Yeah. And then I realized that, well, what if I had my own elements? I could actually add more weapons to this as well. I already have the skill to code new weapons and everything like that. I didn't make any sprites, but I basically got some of the sprites, well, basically all of the sprites from Realm 667 and used those. I added starting weapons, so I replaced first the pistol with I believe it was the Yellow Boy, Winchester Yellow Boy. It was more of a sniping variation of the shotgun. And then it was the machine gun, and then I just started adding weapons. I mean, I even brought back the barrage launcher or the triple-barreled rocket launcher and the plasma machine gun or the double-barreled plasma gun from Cataclysm. Those were first in Cataclysm, then I just brought them back to Insanity Deathmatch. And it started to be a hell of a mess, and I had so many weapons that I couldn't like replace enough actors on the map with it. I replaced some of the power-ups to have like weapons in place of them. For example, the invisibility power-up was replaced by the plasma machine gun and so on. But then I discovered that I could do like random spawners for weapons, and that's exactly what they did. For each match, it just randomized the weapon spawns, and I could add way more weapons than I could have just imagined. So basically what Insanity Deathmatch is, and I later on did the same with power-ups, I just like added random power-up spawners and tons of new power-ups and everything like that. Ammo's also a bit different now. It's just like all random spawns. It's just an RNG fest, but it's obviously for that reason it's just supposed to be like a hell of a lot of fun instead of like a more competitive style thing.
I would describe it to people, if listeners out there who are well versed in the Doom modding scene. Yeah. It's like if Russian Overkill were multiplayer, like PvP multiplayer. Like, and actually, Russian Overkill has. We'll circle around. Yeah, Russian Overkill is my favorite like gameplay mod because it's just pure bliss.
I've played
people
it
play
a
Doom
lot
for
myself.
different reasons.
Yeah,
people play Doom for different reasons, and some people like want like the challenge, and I want to feel like a fucking god. I want to just obliterate everything in my path, and that's what Russian Overkill is all about. And you actually turned me on to Russian Overkill because the last time you were on the show, I asked you like, what was your favorite Doom mod, and you were like Russian Overkill. Yeah. And I was like, what is that? And I went and I actually spent, I mean, I don't know how long ago this was, but I spent that Christmas. I had Ev Eternity and Russian Overkill. I was on duty for Christmas, but, like overnight too. And, so I wasn't going to be hanging out with my wife or anything. And I just decided, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to bring my laptop to work because we're not going to do anything. Like, there's nothing to do on Christmas. You should just fucking be there. And I played Ev Eternity with Russian Overkill all night long. And that was like one of the best Christmases. Thanks to you, brother.
Well, don't mention it seriously, but like the thing in Insanity Deathmatch though, it's somewhat balanced. I mean, it's still very fast paced because of all the crazy weapons. Even the rocket launchers just now a bit different, but like it's still very very fast and deals a hell of a lot of damage. But like in any case, it's still somewhat balanced, so it isn't like Russian Overkill bunkers type of balanced. It's still somewhat playable at least. So it's but it's supposed to be like, because of the randomness reason, it's just supposed to be a hell of a lot of fun instead.
would like to kind of make the comment that you've already mentioned this a bit. It's not the Insanity Deathmatch is not like a competitive mod, right? It's not like something that you were gonna like have a tournament on. It's just about like having fun with your friends,
Exactly.
right? Like just let's just get in here and do some stupid
free
shit.
for all. Grab a gun. Don't care what it does. Just fire it, and you'll just obliterate your enemies with it.
But one of the things that I kind of take away from it, and just seeing you kind of grow as a little person, is that you've literally gone from esports commentator to developer. Like you've fallen so much in love with the idea of like what this whole thing is that you just dove right in. And the last time that we like had a public conversation, you were kind of leaning toward like I don't really know what I want to do kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you've kind of started it at least to experiment with, oh, how can I contribute? And I have the same instinct. Like I just talk about games all day and I play games, and I almost get less pleasure out of just playing a game than I do out of being part of the creation of one.
Yeah.
And I don't know where that's going to take me necessarily, but I understand like the arc, the instinct to like want to be part of the process of like, how do you do that? And once you start into it, and I can get this from a lot of people, like I know a lot of developers who are like, I don't even play games anymore. I just want to make them. And it's hard to find that balance. Like Bridgeburner's done a really good job of, he's like the most disciplined person I know. Like he'll like schedule out his stream schedule to be like, okay, on these days I'm developing Age of Hell, and on these days I'm going to play through every mod that that people request that I play through. And then on Sundays he's just like, we're just going to fuck around and do crazy shit all day with like the whole group. And I don't have that. Like I don't have that privilege of just no shit on you, Bridgeburner. Fuck you, son of a bitch. I don't have like a regular schedule like that, so I can't really map it out in such a way. But just like finding the time, and as you were saying earlier, with your balancing your studies with your creative side and everything, finding a way to channel your creativity and spend some time doing that without it overrunning your life. Like how do you manage that at this point?
Oh, well, that's seriously very difficult though. But like, well, let's just say like I hate like procrastinating even studies, but like I still do that quite. I did that already in high school, and I feel like I'm still doing that even now. But like, what I just need is some discipline for my studies. But like, with that also like with that sort of a weekend discipline, I do find some kind of time for myself. I mean, during weekends, I have decided that I just don't study anything like on weekends except Friday, of course. But like Saturday and Sunday will be just primarily just either for, well, Sunday is what we call here in Finland just like the holy day, at least the resting day. But Saturday, like from here onwards, I mean, even today, like this is Saturday, even today, but like I had a Diabolical Cup to commentate. And I just somehow find the time. I don't know. It's like when I am done with studies, it's like, okay, well, now I can do something else. But like there is still a lot in the studies, so I just like have little to no time whatsoever to do anything else during the day, at least. Even stream.
Yeah, I feel like I have two lives. Like I feel like there's the me that shows up to work, and then there's the other me who does another, like equivalent amount of time within the keep and everything that goes on here. And I have no idea how to explain it to people. I listen to Joe Rogan a lot, and people will ask him like, how do you find the time to be a comedian and a hunter and an MMA commentator and a podcaster? And he's a tremendous output too. It's not like he's a podcaster like me who does an hour, 2 to 3 hours a week as a podcaster. It's like he does at least 3 episodes a week that are all like 3 hours long, if not more, you know, with a vacation here and there. And like, how do you find the time? And he's just like, I will go fucking insane if I don't have something to work on all the time. And I think that you and I are very similar in that case. Because I have no idle time. It is very rare that I just sit around doing that. I mean, like my comfort time is like before bed, I watch Star Trek. Yeah. I drink a few beers or a couple of glasses, and I just watch Star Trek and I pass the fuck out. And like, if even that.
Yeah.
But otherwise I work all the time, and I don't want to be doing anything other than working on this stuff. I want to be at every organ grinder doing commentary. I want to be producing every podcast I can. I want to be interviewing all the people that I find interesting, including yourself. By the way, you will be immediately after David Szymanski. So like, it's gonna be really cool. Yeah, it's fun, man. I literally don't, and I have a wife too. You don't even have a fucking wife.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I still live with my parents too. It's like it's way more easier.
I'm a good husband too.
Yeah.
That's like
when I'm only 20. I'm turning 21 in the 27, so I'll be damned.
Yeah, it's fucking nuts. Like the output of work that you have is tremendous. So so with your esports commentary stuff, if I remember correctly, you kind of were originally kind of deeply in the Quake Cafe community, but like, how did you really get into all that stuff?
Well, first of all, when I started playing Quake Champions in June 2017 during the closed beta, I mostly played basically every game mode that was available, but I mostly played the old round-based duel. And this was around the time when BJ Blazkowicz was released as a new champion in the game, and back then he was like so OP with that dual wielding ability that dual LGs basically just was literally double the rate of fire. But in any case, because of that, I played duel a lot, and I just always chose BJ Blazkowicz as my first champion, just like won every single round with him. Apart from the opposing player, if he was a veteran and he chose BJ Blazkowicz, I just get decimated. But like basically, later on, I bought the game in August 2017 when it was in early access, and that was 2 weeks after the game had actually launched on Steam in early access. But I continued playing in duels. I sort of watched the official live streams of Quake, but nothing else. I had basically not yet known the community of Quake as a whole in 2017 yet. But in 2018, during spring and summer, I believe, I attended in a couple community tournaments held by the Noobs Anonymous community. And that was a community that helped and supported newcomers in Quake Champions to settle in the game, basically. Learn all the champions and all the weapons, the basics of the game, before they could actually just rank up in the duels, for instance. And yeah. But
not to like toot my own horn here, but so I came around into the Quake Champions community right around the same time you did. And
right.
I got involved in really, honestly, I learned the game from Slip. I don't know if you remember Slip, but him and Unkind had the Quake no disrespect to Dump Truck. The Quake Cast is a different thing. The State of Quake podcast, right?
Yeah.
And that's how I ended up getting into podcasting too.
Yeah.
But I got into shoutcasting because I was so like into their community and everything, and I learned a lot about Quake specifically from being around those guys. But the community was very divided. Like they're not divided because anybody had any particular ideology, but because the game Quake Champions did not have a lot of like a centralized, like everybody meet up here. There was like the NA and the EU Quake Discord, and then there was the official Quake Discord, but it was just like, that wasn't the way to find pickup games. So In the Keep actually started as a, like, well, me and my buddies, like me and I Kill Pigeons and Steven at the time, were like trying to figure out like, how can we get more pickup games. Like I don't want to be up at midnight and not be able to find a game to play. So In the Keep was like a pickup game community for Quake Champions. We're like, how, like I'll ping someone and see what happens. And it grew from there. And I had that idea. I don't remember if you remember when this happened, but I was like, well, what if we just reach out to every other little, like, and it was with Quake Cafe, it was with State of Quake, it was with Ultraviolence, and a lot of other people. But what if we just all link our Discords? Like, what if we'd have like the community links part of our Discords, and we say like, well, here are other places where you can communicate with other people who play the same game. And that was like so important at the time, because I'm not saying it was like, oh, it was all my idea, I did a good thing, because ultimately it didn't really amount to much. But so there were some other ones. There was like the Quake crew with Killer Duke and Killer Nukem.
Oh yeah.
Those guys. Killer Nukem still pops in the Discord all the time just to say hey. But and we had like the we had let's do a clan war, so we like put up In the Keeps team versus the Quake crew team.
Oh god.
And we had like this giant fucking like, all right, well, you guys come up with a 2v2 team and a CTF team and a duel, like 2 or 3 different duelers from like you get a gold dueler, a diamond dueler, and a platinum dueler. And it was like this whole fucking like ginormous warfare type situation.
Yeah, we did.
And it ended at the end of the night. I think they just said, fuck you. Like, you guys, we're not interested anymore. Like, it was just a clusterfuck, but it was so much fun. And my whole goal at the time was just like, I just want to bring as many people playing this game together as humanly possible. And that was even before the Quake Pro League, like proper that we have now, came together. And now it's just like 40 lines every day making a fucking bankroll.
Yeah. But yeah, those were like still during the Quake Open League times, and I basically have some of the things about that as well in this document I just have here. But
that's what I wanted to get at, was that you were doing commentary before there was a Quake Pro League on the Quake Pro League.
Exactly, yeah. Well, not exactly the Pro League, but the Challenger division. But yeah. But during the time I just like played a lot of duels and everything like that, I got more and more interested in how the game actually just works. Not only like the basics, but like how different champions just work, what their top speed is, for instance, or like what the exact damage skill bearer does on the full freaking throttle bull rush ability, and so on. It's like there's very small nitty gritty stuff. I got very interested. And I got so much knowledge out of it, even more than the basic knowledge, that I later on in fall 2018 I attended in the Finnish duel tournament because I heard in the Arena FPS Finland Discord that they're arranging duel tournaments in Quake Champions. I immediately got interested, like, holy hell, I gotta attend this. And I attended the first 2, and in the first one I believe I won 2 games. It was a double elimination game or tournament, so I lost the rest 2 after those 2 wins. But I even got the privilege to be in the caster's voice chat, because like it was still like very unprofessional stuff that they were just doing, but like just fooling around. It was nothing like too serious, but they were just testing things out, because that was their first tournament too. And I joined the caster's voice chat, and I wasn't like shoutcasting or anything. I was still more of an analyzing caster. I even had like a notebooks, just like writing things down about different players, just like their pros and cons and how well they controlled the map, for instance, and so on. So I began.
I've done that once.
Yeah,
I just try to remember everything.
Yeah, but I began as a more of an analyzing commentator, and that was in Finnish too. I didn't like commentate in English at first, but later on, with all the knowledge I had, the main casters that were just first chosen to be the casters for the tournaments were actually very intrigued and impressed how much knowledge I actually had of the game already, more than the basic knowledge. And
was there anybody of note in that kind of group of people that you learned from, or?
Well, basically, I don't know. I studied like pretty much all of them myself. There's Cyberix, who I did some myth busting with in Quake. Basically, I went into a custom lobby with him and just like tried working things out. Like, for example, that the noise of the weapons, different weapon skins and stuff like that. We even did like a Reddit post of that at one point. But after that, even we haven't like. I mean, we're still like we have chatted ever since. Like we're still very good friends, but we haven't done anything in Quake just recently. But basically, the first Finnish duel tourney, when I was in the casters' voice chat, the casters were very impressed actually of how much knowledge I had of the game. And then Laggy Luke, the arranger of the Finnish duel cups at the time in fall 2018, he told me that I could be a very good amateur commentator in the EU community cups in Quake. And so he offered me a place in the Battlefight Quake community tournaments. And I had to contact Feral, who was the organizer for those tournaments, and he welcomed me as a streamer because their former streamer, Flea, I don't know if you know him.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you do, of course. Basically,
Flea is so adorable.
He is, yeah. But he was the former commentator for those games, and I was there to replace him for like the ongoing month or month and a half. And from October 2018 to mid-November 2018, I did several tournaments once a week for them. I did 2v2 tourneys, I did dual tourneys for mainly EU, not NA as much. I probably did one NA cup, but like perhaps maybe 7 EU cups.
I regret that I have not been very successful at getting a lot of those guys on the show yet. I intend to fully. But like Zoot and Flea and all those EU like great Quake sportscaster guys, like I have a tremendous amount of respect for them. Like I've been to physical real ass QuakeCon once before the pandemic shut everything down. And since then I've been pretty active. We had like last year we had the Doom tournaments, the King Dime put on for the QuakeCon at home events and everything. And I got the chance to be part of the Doom stuff for that. But I would very much like to interview Zoot and Flea at some point, just to really kind of get into what their journey was, because I mean, we all see them on, the major Quake Pro League streams and everything, but like, I don't know what their backgrounds are. Like, I don't know how they got to the point they were at.
Yeah.
I've been lucky, and 40 will eventually give in and be on the show. He's been very elusive, but I have a pretty good relationship with him and Jahar and like the North American scene. But I'm just disappointed that I haven't gotten a chance to really figure out everybody else, because it's a special group of people. I mean, yourself included.
Yeah.
Who love the game so much that they put in the time to gain the audience to become part of that group, that kind of elite small group of people who were the community. It's hard to really like explain to people, because people kind of take shoutcasters for granted. And I'm not saying me, I don't feel this way about me personally or anything, but like it's a skill, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of studying to be good at. And I'm not saying I'm even good at it. I just kind of show up and drink a beer and start saying whatever's on my head. So I'm the least professional shoutcaster there is, but I have a lot of respect for the people who are truly, truly good at it, like Halo Lagan, like CXT, like those guys are just professionals. Like Halo Lagan is probably the best, like, commentator of Quake who's not a famous Quake caster that there is.
You're pretty much right. I've commentated a couple tournaments with him, not only in Quake but also in Diabolical, and he just like he has so much analysis and so much experience with the players as well that he just like puts me down into saying like, what the hell am I supposed to say next? It's like He's just like giving perfect analysis of the players and like doing magnificent shoutcasting and everything. Yeah, he's a very good commentator.
The first time that I can say this about Halo and also Jahar, I did a lot of stuff with Halo for State of Quake, which was like, I felt like a total boy. Like I felt like a boy in a man's world kind of thing. But it was a couple years ago, the Pigeon Classic, we had the Quake World match, like between Locktar and BPS.
I remember that. Yeah.
All time favorite Quake players.
Yes.
I love you, Rafa. I love you, Saigib. I love you, everybody who's a great Quake player. But to me, there are no two greater greats than BPS and Locktar, who are in your neighboring country of Sweden. And just Jahar being in the same chat as you doing commentary on Quake World is a different fucking level. I feel like a little tiny boy. Like, we're in fucking overalls next to a grown ass man.
Well, you're very much true. It's like Quake World is a totally different game anyways. Like it's much more fast paced, so the commentating in a case has to be like a bit different because you're not keeping up with every single fight.
Right. Because in Quake Champions is such it's an esport, right? It's a game with proper spectating tools, and like it was intended to be done this way. Quake World is like cutthroat, death immediately, like just try to keep up kind of shit. And Jahar is a professional, right? Like he's just the best of the best as far as I'm concerned. And I felt so stupid. And for the whole time until we got to like Blood Run. And then I'm like, okay, I know Blood Run. Like if there's one thing I know, it's not, I don't understand my wife. I don't understand anything. I don't understand chess. I don't understand world politics. I definitely get Blood Run. And then I like, okay, I can contribute. I don't feel like such an idiot. Anyway, back to you.
No, it's good. Good you mentioned that. Yeah, but they're two different games. But but where was I anyway? Oh yeah, so I commentated like in Battlefy up until mid-November, and it was then when I heard that Quake Open League were actually looking for amateur casters for Challenger streams and tournaments. So I signed up. I put a signed up, which was also seen up by Zoot, and he contacted me personally, basically on Discord, and he said that there's like he saw my Battlefy Quake tournament castings already, and he said that I had done a marvelous job in Battlefy already, and he had high hopes just pushing me forward in the higher ranks, even up to the pro ranks, depending how things would go internally in the Open League. Well, you can probably guess that the things didn't go internally too well because like it was less than a month, I believe, when Quake Pro Open League went just suddenly on a 9-month hiatus. And but in any case, I'll get to that. But I still commentated stuff in Quake Open League. I commentated like many tournaments with my future casting partner Taka, as well as Plague TV, the American streamer. But with him, I mostly commentated and streamed the NA side, and with Taka, I was just like commentating the European side. But basically, it was only that short season. It was only like a month-long season during December, and after that season, we had heard nothing, not even from Open League or not even from the developers of any new official esport news, and I didn't commentate for like 2 months after that, or 3 months, I should say, maybe. Yeah.
It got to a point where, and I guess this is the dark side of the conversation. Quake Champions went to. I'm not going to say the game itself went downhill, but like the support from Bethesda did, in fact, and we were all kind of left with our dicks in our hands, kind of. Me and Slip and Unkind were like, well, what do we do now? And Diabolical was kind of on the horizon still. It wasn't like this thing we could hold in our hands and really feel. I don't know what to say about that than to say that like the corporate powers that be did what they did, and we had to resort to strictly just the community running everything, which is when State of Quake had its kind of best run. And we had Quake Cafe was really bouncing.
Yeah.
And it was just totally left up to the community, which is what traditionally has always happened with Quake. It's like, like there's a time when it's the hot new pretty thing, and then all right, we're turning it over to the community.
Yeah.
But that didn't really happen this time with Quake Champions. And it was never going to happen because the game itself does not lend itself to people tweaking it. You can't mod it. You can't do much of anything with it. So we know Sync Error is working his ass off. I have nothing but respect for Sync Error.
Yeah, he is doing a tremendous job on the game. Seriously.
To say that out loud.
Yeah.
He single-handedly, as far as I understand it, with a small like budget group of individuals, are keeping Quake Champions alive because he believes in it and he's been involved with it since forever, like Quake Live days, I want to say. And what do we do? So it was and still is kind of just totally in the community's hands. Like, if this game is going to survive, it needs to be like grassroots kind of thing. And that's where you came in. You were like,
yeah,
what do I do?
Yeah, exactly. But basically, because I didn't commentate for like 2 months, there was this player in the Arena FPS community, not only in Quake community, but in the Arena FPS community, called Champ, who established Rocket Jump Zone in January 2019. And first he did like 2 tournaments in Zonotic. He sort of kind of wanted to experiment tournaments in Zonotic with that as well. But then onwards in March 2019, he wanted to do like tournaments in Quake Champions, and as well as in Diabolical when it releases.
Mm-hmm.
And me and Taka, my former casting partner, both joined in as the main casters for the Quake tournaments. And for a while, there was actually nothing else but Quake for the year, because like the official eSports news were still to come from the developers. So we heard nothing from them for a while. And that was when you said it yourself, that was when the community started its uprising, basically. It's like, we want some esports news, and the pro players especially weren't very happy with that. So they just started to compete and just keep up their skill in the community tournaments as well.
Yeah, and I should say, just to kind of keep a timeline apparent here to listeners, we started off in like early 2018, late 2017 with you and I kind of becoming part of the community. And then now where we're talking about is like, we'll say summer of 2019 is when the last great QuakeCon, happened. And that was when the Quake Pro League was off to a really nice start. But where we're at is like QuakeCon that year was the Quake Pro League itself, tournaments going on, and then it was really at QuakeCon, as far as I understand it, it was State of Quake who held it together, and we did the what were we doing? Slipgate tournaments. I think I showed up a little bit wasted to try to do commentary for one of them, and we couldn't even get the commentary to work because somebody's computer melted and they were doing it on my PC, and OBS was all fucked up. And like we just had a time, because I had I think it was OD. They had if you've ever been to QuakeCon, folks out there listening, they have like a 2019. They had a pit area where it was like you could go sit there up front and watch the commentators, and then you had the Pro League going on to the right over a barrier and everything. But I had gone up and talked to OD, and I was under the impression that they were going to let us, like, they were going to let State of Quake, kind of broadcast it from that perspective, and it didn't end up that way. It was like all BYOC kind of situation, bring your own computer area situation, and it just didn't work out the way we wanted it to. But that was the community's contribution, or as good as we could do for the game at the time. And I will say it was a bit, I'm not blaming anybody that I've mentioned so far or anything like that, but it's just like that the lack of attention that the company pays to the people who are keeping their game alive was disheartening to a lot of people. And there have been only a select few who have kind of gone on to be part of what they've established now, as opposed to what the efforts that were being put forward by the people who really, really, truly loved the game that were trying to help out. So there was like an input to outsource discrepancy here. It's like the amount of effort being put in is not resulting in an equivalent or better output from where it's being put into. And that became, at least for me, a kind of call to reconsider how much effort I'm going to put into this. And I'm not sure if you had the same experience. I'm actually curious, where you're at with that.
Well, basically what my view was like at the time, let's see.
I like that this became an FPS historian episode.
No, it's fine. It's fine. This is totally about me, not only about like Golds of FPS or anything like that. But yeah, it's fine. Yeah. But anyway, even before QuakeCon 2019, I like that basically the whole community. I mean, I'm sure State of Quake had a lot to do with just like keeping up the community, at least in NA side, very much alive. Yeah. But like in EU also, we had like an uprising of community tournament rages. For instance, like Rocket Jump Zone is where I commentated and streamed the games. Yeah. And then we had Vea, who was the former sort of co-caster in the Noobs Anonymous community. She did tournaments on her own, basically. I can't remember what they're called, actually. It was like Battle of Unicorns. That's what it was. And then there was, I believe, Rob Corv and Peng Artist and their friends. I cannot remember all of their names, but they started doing the Fragfest Cup every Friday, which is still even going on every Friday, basically. And here in the EU, we actually had like so many, and well, even in the NA, we had so many different community tournaments just like rise up and suddenly just like go from the shadows, because like there was no official esport news. And so the community had to answer to that. And especially with the pro players just still having nothing else around. We even had like Agent, Razy, NSE, although, well, he's a high-ranked player. I would say he's still on a professional level, but like Base and stuff like that. We had all of those players, and I even interviewed most of them myself after each tourney, if they just had time.
It's I don't know, it's been a weird journey, man.
It has, yeah.
Like, I didn't mean to spend the whole time talking about Quake Champions, but it was just like such an important part of why I'm here right now speaking, that it's hard to not acknowledge it in some way. And you're one of the best people I know to actually talk about it with. So,
but I do like to think, if I may go back to Quake Open League, if the Open League didn't go defunct, because Sud said himself that I would have been in the higher ranks as well in the future. Maybe at this point, if the Open League would exist even to this date, I would be like a professional commentator. I don't know. Maybe. But things didn't go well internally, so Open League went down, and we got no official esports news for the 9 months' time. But it was nevertheless still a highlight, that whole 9 months, that we didn't get any official news, because I got to meet so many great people in the whole Quake community, commentating and streaming their tournaments, and just like meeting so many great people.
Yeah. So then we fast forward to late 2019, early 2020, and Diabolical does come out, and you've since been doing some stuff for them. But like, I'm curious, like, what's been your experience with Diabolical? What's your opinions and ins and outs?
Well, it's changed like basically over the last 2 years. I'm very sure. I mean, they even in Duel, they even like sort of removed the grenade launcher, but added it later on in the rocket launcher as a secondary fire option. But let's see. I haven't recently played much Diabolical myself. I commentated the Diabolical tourney, dual tourney in Egg WP today, and it's still fascinating to see how much dedication goes into this competing in duel and other competitive game modes. But sadly, the if you're just trying to find a game inside it, it's just not gonna happen too soon. At least there's not many people playing it. Sadly, I feel like it's at the same sort of state as not exactly the same as Quake Live. Quake Live still has numerous amount of people playing on the servers, but what Quake Champions probably was during the early, not early access, but the closed beta period. I still sort of struggle fighting a game sometimes myself and duel in the European servers, but yeah, there were still Quake, such as in Quake, there were still many dedicated people just contributing to duel and stuff like that competitively.
I like Diabolical. I think there's a lot of really good things going on with Diabolical. I'm happy to support it as much as I can. Obviously, In the Keep has had a lot of success with the Zen Sports Diabolical tournaments and shopping out Halo and Gelmo and all those guys doing really, really great things for the production end of things. But from just a strict gameplay standpoint, I liked Diabolical when I had no transition from Quake to Diabolical, right? It was just I'm just playing Quake, but it's called Diabolical. That's fine.
Yeah.
Now that they've done a lot, and I'm not saying it's for better or worse. It's just my personal preference is different than what's good for the game. I've never been an Unreal guy. I don't like secondary fire in a multiplayer game. That's just me. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just from a how much time am I going to spend playing a game standpoint, currently with Diabolical, not a whole lot. And that's okay. I'm far more interested in Warfork. I'm not saying it's going to be big and have a pro league or anything. And just in terms of what I like to play from a multiplayer PvP standpoint, Diabolical currently is not it for me. But I will say that the community seems to have had a moment of everybody's super stoked, and then kind of all right, let's settle down a bit and go into the lull period. And I'm not sure where we go from here. So where are you at? What are you doing, and how are you responding and feeling about what's going on right now?
Well, Diabolical or just...
You could say in general. I was specifically asking about Diabolical, but if you have more to say, then just say it, man.
Well, let's see. Well, in Arena FPS in general, how would I say? Well, to me, Diabolical is fine with just secondary fires, although I feel like it feels like too much what is it, Unreal Tournament, which also had those secondary fires. I mean, some of the weapons don't actually, but the rocket launcher is exactly the same as the the rocket launcher in Unreal Tournament, and the what else? The Void Cannon nowadays is exactly the same as the Shock Rifle in Unreal Tournament. But I still feel fun. I feel like that's a very prominent part of arena shooters in general. It just blends in the movement of Quake and a little bit of the combat of Quake and Unreal Tournament.
I'll say this. I thought that Diabolical was just simply going to replace Quake.
Yeah, yeah, me too, actually, yeah.
And I think what we've gotten is, and I would love to talk to anybody on the Diabolical dev team. I have invited Too Good multiple times to be on the show, and you're always welcome. But I will say from my standpoint that the game lacks an identity, right? When I say Quake, that means a lot to a lot of people. When I say Doom, that means a lot to a lot of people. When I say, I don't know, Castlevania, these are just to shoot, way off course of what I was just saying.
Yeah.
But there's a brand here. There's a feeling that is invoked by me saying that. And Diabolical seems to have fallen into this sort of place where it's, it's trying to be Quake. It's trying to be Unreal. It's trying to be the Arena FPS that kills all Arena FPSs. And by doing so, it seems to have not become diabolical, right? Like this game that's like special and unique in its own way, that all of the other games that I just named have in common. Dark Souls. I could name any franchise that has stood the test of time. Diabolical, unfortunately, does not seem to have really. I can't say it hasn't been successful. It hasn't established itself in a way that sets it apart from anything else. It's just trying to be an Arena FPS that all people who play Arena FPS can find some common ground in. And while that's that can be a good thing, it can also be an opacity, a dilution of a greater vision. And I worry, like, are they trying to bend to accommodate too much, or like? And I don't know. I'm happy that I'm not in the position they're in, making the decisions they're making.
Yeah, it's very difficult. You're very much right that it does like lack some identity. But it was like first supposed to be like the next generation of Arena FPS, and suddenly it just like it was very ambitious, just like pushing Arena FPS back to popularity. But it's difficult to say like what it needs to be exactly, because it does have the movement of Quake, but it also like has the melange and mismatch things in Unreal Tournament and Quake as well. It's just very, very difficult where it's just supposed to be. But I don't know. I haven't like played Diabolical myself too much, but it's just like one of the reasons that because Quake, or Quake Champion specifically, is just more popular in eSports. I've actually just done more tournaments there as well, and stuff like that. But it's still very, very good to see like dedicated people in it. But like they somehow understand like if Diabolical just has some kind of an identity or not. But yeah, I don't know.
It's weird. I thought that Wipeout was going to be the fucking thing. Like, love Wipeout, and I'm weirded out by the fact that it's not become like awesome. Like I figured Wipeout would be on par with I don't know, like bomb mode and or whatever in CS:GO. Not that I thought that Diabolical was going to be as big as CS:GO, but like I thought people would gravitate towards it the same way. Yeah. In Warfork, Gelmo-san actually sort of like made a mode called Freeze Tag Arena, which is essentially like Freeze Tag plus Clan Arena. Oh. And it solved a lot of the issues that we had with Diabolical's Wipeout mode, in that Wipeout, for people who are listening who are not super familiar, is like Clan Arena, but instead of, you're dead and that's just it, and you wait until the next person, till the mode's over or till the game's over, you respawn, and each time you die, you take a little bit longer to respawn. So the goal is not to kill everybody on the team, it's to have everyone on the other team dead at the same time. But that leads to you sort of playing passively, right? So you get these situations where it's just like you just run away and no problem. Freeze tag, for anyone who's ever played freeze tag, we all know that the point is you freeze your opponent, and then the other team members of that team have to come and unfreeze you, right? Yeah. So the problem that is solved here by Freeze Tag Arena is that you're never allowed to just run away. You have to engage. So and your opponents always know where you're going to come because they know where your frozen team members are. So they're going to wait by them, and you end up with really interesting combat scenarios. And I'm hoping that if there can be a league or something established for Warfork, that I think that game mode would be the ultimate. Like duel, obviously, duel is always going to be there, but as far as team modes go, because it's very hard to find a really active and fun team thing for Arena FPS. I think that would be the one that was this could be truly special. I don't know if it will be, but I've very much, that's one of the few modes that like, I just I just enjoy this. This is fun. Like I'm here all the way. Fork Friday comes around. If I'm not at work that night, which is usually the case, then I'll hop in there and I'll have some just solid, good fun. I'm not even interested in Clan Arena anymore because I love Freestyle Arena so much.
Yeah.
What were the other notes? You said you brought a whole book of notes. Like what
Yeah, yeah.
We have all night.
Yeah. Well,
how long?
Basically, I don't have much of the casting career anymore, I believe. I mean, during the whole 2019 year, I already said that it was a hell of a highlight for me because we got no official eSport news, and we had a lot of pro players. We had a lot of tournaments arranged almost every week, and I attended almost every single one. But I also did a tournament in Helsinki, the capital of Finland, basically, and it was in the Gaming Lounge Helsinki, Finland, where I did a tournament live. And it was sort of an impromptu stream because at first I thought it was going to be streamed on the QC Finland channel, on which there was the first Finnish Dual Cups streamed. But then I was told that they had no streamer at all, and they basically just thought that I would be the streamer. But like I had no plans to like stream it. I only had plans to like commentate it, be it like a co-caster for it. So I just had to like hook up Streamlabs OBS to the very beastie streaming PC downstairs there, and just like commentate that in English because my channel is just mainly in English, not in Finnish. But that was still, it nevertheless just caught attention, and that was still one hell of an experience just casting a dual tournament live in Quake Champions. That was fantastic. Meeting the players live too, it was just a real experience.
So what players did you meet?
Well, I don't know if you know them by name, but there was Dansku, Leuku. I cannot remember anybody else. Well, the Laggy Luke wasn't actually there. The arranger for the tournament, the first dual cup tournament at least. But like Dansku is actually, I believe he actually competes in Dabodaku nowadays. But he was a former Quake Champions tourney, and we sort of like developed a meme around him. It's like every time he just like wins, is like we're asking him in an interview, is like, how did that game go in your own views? Like, how did you win this? What went so well in this game? And he always answers, well, it's my gaming chair. It's good. And we just like sort of developed a meme around his gaming chair. We even put like an emote of the gaming chair on Discord and everything like that. It's like, Danskun pelituoli on hyvä. Dansku's gaming chair is good. For just that. But sadly, he didn't bring his gaming chair to the live event there. That was a different one. That was the Gaming Lounge Helsinki, Finland's gaming chair.
That's actually, for people who have never been to a LAN before, the shittiest thing about being at a LAN is not having your own chair and your own desk.
Yeah.
But like,
but he still won
the
tournament, but yeah, it was still, I don't know if he actually just like was on a negative mood because he didn't have his own chair, but yeah, he still won it.
When we think about like truly tremendous esports players, right?
Yeah.
We think of them as the best players, but there's a caveat to that. There are really, truly wonderful, excellent players who are very good as long as they have their creature comforts, right? Like they have their own room, they have their own setup, their monitors, their, chair. In this case, for me, it's my scarf. Like I love that. It's right behind me, right here. Like when it gets cold, I put it on. There's those parts of it. But when you go to a LAN, right, or it's like, Rafa versus Saigib or some shit like that.
Yeah.
They've brought their hard drive or whatever, maybe, and they have their mouse and their keyboard as they prefer it. And maybe if they're really like top dollar, they brought their own fucking chair, but they're sitting on a stage or, in a LAN, at some table. It's not their desk. It's not at the exact necessarily the right height for them.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah, the mouse pad, every little detail matters. And these players are so good that they overcome that challenge because, I've seen people like ascend to the level where they're like, I'm gonna go to fucking Italy and play in it, and then they don't have all those little creature comforts, and they don't perform at the level that they thought they were. Rafa has, I don't know if you remember in the big match that he won, where he had actually like taken his ass to the East Coast so he could be closer to the server. So he's like in an undisclosed bunker area.
Oh my god! Just for the sake of better connection, I'll be damned.
And wins the whole tournament. And that's the craziness that these individuals are willing to go to be the true greats. It's not just as simple as like being really good at Quake at your house in your little office area where you have your desk and your computer set up. It's like really going the extra mile to be a quote cyber athlete or whatever. So I want to keep the conversation open to like, if you have other notes that you'd like to tackle, then please go ahead. But I can keep it going.
No, it's
my
fine.
Own train of thought as well. So, who is your all-time favorite Quake player? Or I should say Arena FPS player. It doesn't have to
Arena.
be Quake,
well, I'm still gonna fall into Quake because that's the series I know best. Not only about like history, but like in any case, I just like have played more Quake than any other just Arena FPS. But I would say, besides Rafa, of course, but I would say Toxic. I would probably say
Toxic. Okay.
So like he's been up in the highest rank of EU players. Rafa's just been the highest rank of an A players. They're just like basically almost the opposing sides of just players.
Yeah. It's actually weird because you guys, and I say you guys, I mean like Europeans, have always dominated Quake, and it's very satisfying for me to know that the best player is Rafa.
He's in an A,
yeah, and he lives in
magnificent.
Texas,
Texas,
and. I mean, there's part of me that like I don't really care who the actual like where they're from or whatever. Like I have no interest really in nationalism or whatever. But it is satisfying to know that the best player is from America. To the point where we're in the Cold War like Rocky IV days. Yeah, it would be very satisfying for me to know that like the next World War depends on Rafa winning this Quake match kind of thing. But Toxic is your pick, like number one best of all time.
I would say, at least in EU. Yeah.
Okay. We'll leave Rafa aside, and I'll actually explore a few different games here because it's not just Quake. All right. So, if I were to pick a greatest Quake player of all time, excluding Shane, I would. I think there's a distinguishment to be made between favorite and best, right? So there's an objective best. There's the guy who wins all the tournaments, and then there's the people who are the most fun, to watch or like that kind of thing. So, Devastation is always going to be like, and he's my friend too, so it's kind of hard to be impartial. But like Doom 2 community people who know Devastation, like he's just fucking tremendous, like. Dominated Quake 2 for I don't know how long now. Actually, there are other great players, but like he just recently in the last Organ Grinder beat Hatred in a best of 3. He won 2 out of 3, and that was fantastic to see. Diabolical Agent, I think, is like leading the pack.
Oh yeah. Agent actually he won today's WP Cup as well as last week's WP Cup. He's like a tremendous champion in our tournaments, at least in the well played tournament scene. But yeah, I would say he is also. I would say like Arena FPS player in general. He's a very good and a tremendous skill player.
Yeah, and that's a part of it too. Is that being really good at one particular game or being good at a whole genre in general. Yeah. Like Brondo is another guy that comes to mind who was He was the best and still is the best Dusk World player.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I understand was the most minuscule of minuscule Arena FPS communities, but he was so dominant at Dusk, and like I had to get to know him better. And I really do want to have him on the show eventually. Like he's been very elusive. Like he'll say like, "Yeah, I'll do it one day," and then the next day, like, no, I'm not feeling it. Private guy.
Yeah.
But I will say this now that he was a collegiate UT player too.
Oh,
And so I actually got the chance to play Unreal Tournament with Rondo. I think it was the whatever the most recent Unreal Tournament 4 or whatever.
UT4.
And first of all, I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing in Unreal Tournament anyway. But like he was just obliterating everything, and I don't know what to do with that. Just think of some other true fantastic greats. Obviously, I mean my favorite Quake player of all time is Locktar, hands down. He's got everything. He's got the skills, the personality, the entertainment like value when you're watching. He's not like one of those players that plays passively. It's just all. It's like watching a fucking Viking run up a beach into battle, like kind of thing. Every time he plays, like, and I'm just bewildered by how much spirit he puts into the game when he plays, and I think that's even more special than just winning every tournament. I think it's having a personal connection with your audience. Really beautiful stuff, man.
Well, my favorite in Quake World is just a native player, Milton. I don't know if you know him. Yeah, just right up there with Locktar, I would say.
I'm long overdue to have Milton back, but I've had Milton is actually one of the number one like of all the episodes of In the Keep. I had Milton on once, and it just exploded my YouTube. Like I was just like, how many people care about Milton? I know how many people, but
all the Finns here.
He's a very interesting person. He's very cerebral. Like he's very grounded. As a differentiation between like him and the Swedes, like Locktar and BPS. And I know they all have like personal histories, so I'm not going to like try to like dig into that too much, but they've been playing Quake against each other for forever. And I think Milton is objectively the best Quake World player of all time. He's so good at duels that he doesn't even want to duel anymore.
Yeah. And
now he's so good at 4v4 that like who can even compete? If he's on a team, he could be on a team with me and you and probably
still be victorious.
Yeah. Milton is a tremendous
Very
player
much so,
and a tremendous person. Just a upstanding member of the community, truly. But I've still got to say, like, Locktar is my favorite player. And BPS, I love you, but you know why Locktar is my favorite player.
But like it's funny because like Milton is still like more of an introvert type compared to Locktar or even BPS. Because like, well, that's what we Finns basically are. Apart from me, who's just developed some kind of an accent suddenly, I don't know how. But like
that's not true. You're not the only one, my friend. I think I told you about what you played. White Hell. Have you played the demo at least?
I've seen it. No, I haven't played, but I've seen it.
You need to play. You need to go Golds of FPS. Next episode needs to be White Hell's demo. They're your fellow Finns there, but Miko,
yeah,
he has the same accent as you.
Really?
I'm not sure if it's like because you guys are from the same area, but I told him that like as soon as I start, like the interview starts, and I'm like. Are you from like kind of southern part of Finland? He's like, well, you know, kind of like that area. I'm like, you and Kaapeli are like have the same accent, and it's a bizarre, weird thing.
I don't know.
Is there like a differentiate? Like, did the like Suomi versus like other members of the Finnish country? Like, do you guys have a differentiation there?
We sort of do at least. Not only in accents in Finnish, but also in like personalities. I live in the Häme region in the southern Finland part, and we're just basically sort of thought to be the more slower and at least in our stereotype, with the more slower and just like thinking stereotype. Is like we're just like pondering stuff for such a long time, and stuff like that. I don't know, but like
Yeah.
and it also like when people here speak English, it's like it also here in Häme at least, it also just feels like that because they're just like speaking with a rally English accent like this, and they pull no emotion out of it whatsoever. It's like I don't know. I can sort of see them their personality even if they speak Finnish. English, but yeah.
It's I don't know. It's a funny accent. That's all I really have to say about it. But
Welcome
White
to the
Hell
Hydraulic
is
Press channel.
tremendous, like excellent game, and it goes into the Kalevala and everything, like the
our national
mythology,
epic, basically.
Yeah, and I love it, man. It's probably of all the quote retro FPS games that are currently in development, like that I've played demos for. It's the one I'm most excited for.
Yeah.
Like I really, really love that game. I can't wait to see what they do with it, man. And you also joined us for just the tail end of, but when we were doing we will finish it. We will have a part 2, but the Finnish map jam, the Quake map jam, like in that,
and the co-op
version, that was so much fun.
That
dude.
was,
I love that whole community, man. The Quake mapping community. We've mentioned Dump Truck earlier, I think, in passing, but. I love QuakeCast, and I really, really love just everything that comes out of that community. Chris Holden, there's so many people. Scarecrow, that whole group of people. Smile Scythe being my favorite Quake mapper because of January Jump Jam from a couple years ago. That shit was like phenomenal, like truly fantastic.
Yeah, there's also the Finnish Quake mapper Ziggy, who developed that map pack we just played in the co-op.
Ziggy, a representative, an owner of an In the Keep t-shirt out there representing. I fucking love him. I love all those guys. Newhouse. Like, I can't say that I'm like so in tune, like I know everybody, but like I just truly appreciate the passion that comes out of that community. And I actually do believe this. I think that the Quake mapping community is the best mapping community. Like they're the people who are making the best maps in FPS, not just from a, Quake or Doom or whatever standpoint. Like I think they understand mapping on a different level than everyone else does. And I think that the best people in the, AAA industry, like people who are working for 3D Realms now, like companies like that, they come from a Quake background. I've already said Scarecrow and Chris Holden, and they're the people who are working on Graven, and even Sprawl comes from the Quake mapping community, even though it's an Unreal 4 engine game now, if I remember correctly. And so Graven is technically an Unreal 4 game, but they're making the maps in Trench Broom and porting them to Unreal 4. And obviously Wrath, Aeon of Ruin, all comes from the Quake mapping community.
Yeah, sir. And that's Wrath especially, I cannot wait for that to launch. That's even like, I don't know if it's like a sort of different version of Dark Places or stuff like that, but it is a fantastic like Quake 1 engine game. It has like several like features like the sort of limited amount of color palettes and stuff like that, and the moody and realistic tone of lighting, and the frigging, you can actually turn the interpolation of the animations on. It is just so much like Quake 1.
Well, Doombringer is also made in the Dark Places engine, and Christus is a titan of the Doom mapping community, but like moved on obviously to Doombringer, and that game is tremendous as well. Like multiplayer, like PvP and single player is just fantastic. Christus was recently on the show again, and I'm just like blown away every time I see anything that those guys do. Like I'd really believe that the people working in the Quake engine are the best at mapping.
Yeah.
That's no disrespect to my friends in the Doom community, but like they could learn a thing
it's
or
a
two.
total different game
Yeah.
in any case, but yeah.
But like they could literally like learn a thing or two out of like what's going on in
Yeah.
the Quake community, because I've been saying this a long time on the show, man, to you and to many other people, like in private. But like, I think that the next big thing in boomer shooters is to just like jump on the GZ Doom engine and make a fucking game, because it's,
Yeah.
you know, free, open source. No one's holding it against you. There's no Bethesda's not holding it against you. It doesn't use any Doom assets if you just replace them all.
Yeah.
And you can sell a game on Steam and on GOG and all this kind of stuff with the Doom engine, with the GZ Doom engine. And I think that if you were to take those principles of map design and try to apply them to that, then you'd be very successful. But regardless, there isn't that weird that these like 35-year-old kind of engines have progressed to a point where people are making money off them in 2021. Like,
Yeah.
what's going on here? I think Hedon, right? Zan's project, he's living off of Hedon.
Yeah.
And needs nothing else. It's beautiful. And I hope that more people jump on the bandwagon and get the money while the money's good.
Yeah. It is tremendous. I mean, I was just about to mention Hedon, but also like Age of Hell. Hopefully that will, but already has the mod DB page, but hopefully that will just like release on Steam as well. Just like Bridgeburner and his crew are just making a tremendous job. The map design, the textures design, just like anything on the GZ Doom engine specifically. Yeah, that is such a, it doesn't have many limits to it. For Doom
you would
engine.
be hard pressed to find a bigger Bridgeburner fan than me, but I know that Age of Hell will never be a monetized thing. I do think that they should put it on Steam and, you know, everywhere that they can, for, you know, because you can put games on Steam for free.
Yeah.
And everything. I do hope that they like reach the largest audience they can, but he has no intention of monetizing Age of Hell. Now, Bridgeburner has also recently established, quote, Hellforge Studios, and that is the most interesting thing going on with GZ Doom that I can think of, because they're taking all these different projects that are kind of similar to Age of Hell, like, you know, total conversions.
Yeah.
And I think his intention is to monetize them and like sell them. And I know that he will, after Age of Hell, progress on and make another game or other games that utilize the engine, because Bridgeburner is the best. Like,
yeah, you could say
he is literally numero uno as far as Doom modding goes, map maker.
Yeah.
And I think that he will make a lot of money over time, but Age of Hell will be free forever. And he would say that himself. So I mean, immediately when I saw Age of Hell, I was like, you're going to charge money for that, right? But there's so many people involved in it that the logistics of paying everyone for the work that they've done that has gone undocumented to make it is not, and I'm not going to say not possible, but incredibly unlikely. And it wouldn't be fair to anyone to charge money for it and not distribute it correctly. Sorry. But there's hope.
Yeah. Yeah, there certainly is. I mean, well, with those other projects, though, I mean, knowing that they have such an incredible team behind them, I can already tell, like, it will just like the other project, if not Age of Hell, then the other projects may just be selling quite a lot because of the tremendous effort that already goes into Age of Hell and Major Arlene's, what is it?
Technicolor Antichrist.
Yeah, I was about to say it wrong myself as well. It's like,
or as I like to say,
Technichrist box. But in any case,
I say it wrong every opportunity.
Yes, I was about to say it myself. It was like, I'll be damned. But like the people behind those are just like doing a tremendous work. Whether they just like be working on Age of Hell or those other projects, and I can already tell the other projects maybe just like bringing them some some capital themselves. It is very good.
And Mr. Cat too is like the
Oh, yes,
other big contributor. Yeah. So what else is on your mind? We're closing in on like it's an hour 45 now.
Yeah.
What do you got? What do you got? For
Well, I haven't talked about Golds of FPS at all. I mean, I've mentioned it a couple of times, but that's about it. I mean, well, basically, where I had my start with Golds of FPS is I somehow got interested in the history of FPS through Doom, because it was the first FPS I played 19 years after its release in 2012, late 2012, I should say. But I don't know where I got this. Is like I got interested in the tech. It's like what makes these games run, and what made the games run back then as well, and what were the team working on those games behind that game, and that's how I sort of got my stuff with Golds of FPS. I first thought that I would just like collect these games and just play them on my own time, but there's so many of them that I can only just like play them by just like streaming them and just spending time on streams playing them through. And there I established the series, the Golds of FPS, in July 2018. And this was before I had like 100 follows on Twitch, and I decided to continue the series when I had 100 follows. And this was also during the time where I also streamed Quake Champions and my dual tourneys. I got barely 100 follows because of that. People were just like watching how I played. And then I continued on with, the first episode, the pilot episode, was a playthrough of the Ultimate Doom, which I played through to show how much I've studied classic FPS and how well this sort of playthrough stream format performs. And then I decided to continue the episodes once I had 100 follows on Twitch with Doom 2. And then just went forward with id Software's series. There was Ultimate Doom, Doom 2, Quake 2, Quake 3. Then there was Heretic and Hexen by Raven Software. And then Rise of the Triad and Duke Nukem 3D. Just like those most influential classic FPS titles in the 90s. And that was the first season, which I called a classic start. That was not only like those most influential classic FPS titles. That was also where I had my start studying the history of the FPS genre, but it was first classic FPS. And then I just continued on in early 2019. I finished the first season quite quickly because there was only a couple titles. And then season 2, Ideas from the Deep, you can already tell from that name that it's about id Software and their legacy of the FPS games they developed. And they were basically the workhorse company of the whole genre back in the 90s, basically, the whole 90s. And I started that with Wolfenstein 3D, then Spear of Destiny, the sequel to Wolfenstein 3D.
Boo.
Not the expansions, however, to Spear of Destiny, because, excuse me, those are just like complete bullcrap, to say the least.
Spear of Destiny sucks.
But like, it was I do have to address that these weren't only playthroughs. These were also like before I got to the game, playing the game through, I studied a little bit of its background history, and even during the playthrough, I just like studied the history throughout the whole playthrough, the levels, their level designers and programmers, and so on. And then Season 2 took pretty much 6 months. It had, well, I already said, Wolfenstein 3D, then Spear of Destiny. Then I just did a playthrough of Return to Castle Wolfenstein. And then I took a break with the Wolfenstein series for a while and went on ahead with Doom, with Final Doom, TNT Evolution, and Plutonium Experiment. And then a playthrough of Doom 3, I believe, yeah, and expansion. And yeah,
I've got to interject here. You got to upload this shit to YouTube.
I have. I already said in the first episode I did with you that I had uploaded the first season, but like the first 4 seasons now are on YouTube. I have to address. So they're all on my YouTube channel. It's just Kaapeli47. You can just see the name itself on the freaking title of the YouTube or wherever you're listening this to. But yeah, you can see my name. Search that name on YouTube. You can find my channel. It's all there.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And then season 3, it was the Cold War, which that's what I like to call it, the Cold War of FPS. That was the era of Epic Mega Games and their history with FPS. They first developed Unreal, which was meant to compete with Quake to be the first sort of fully 3D FPS game on the PC. And I sort of try to reflect that as the moon landing of the Cold War, the real Cold War, that is, that the US was actually the first one before the Soviets on the moon landing. And I like to reflect that its software was basically US here, being the first to land on the moon, developing Quake as the first fully 3D FPS game on the PC. But it basically focused on Unreal, or its series, basically. And I do apologize, I have to take another drink here. It's just like empty. This talking is making me very dry-throated.
It was very interesting talking to Cliffy B on his perspective of that time frame, because I mean he was growing up looking at Romero, right, and saying like I want to be better than him. And I like your analogy that it's like the Soviets got into space first, but then the Americans are like, well, we made it to the moon first, so we won. Like, and that's the propaganda that's kind of given to us here in a lot of ways.
But I do feel like, I mean, its software is still the first one in, the pseudo 3D. I mean, Wolfenstein 3D, just like making 3D games faster. That's where its software was the first one in FPS. But basically, when Unreal, it actually got delayed, and so Quake, because of that, was the first fully 3D FPS. But I don't know really. It actually competed more with Quake 2 than Quake 1 later on when it released. Mainly with its 3D technology, but like also with the speed of the game. I mean, Quake 2 was more of a faster game, I would say, than just the first Unreal. While Unreal had the higher tech, just the larger worlds, the damn beautiful worlds you just love to look at with that 3D FX Voodoo 1 and your Pentium 2 set up back in the day. Because that was marvelous to look at. But Quake 2 just played magnificently and fast.
Fast is a relative term in today's.
Well, I would say fast-paced. I didn't mean fast as in processing power or anything like that, but yeah, fast-paced.
Yeah, well, I mean like in rocket speed and
well, yeah. Well, this was only a comparison between Quake 2 and Unreal, not Quake 1 and Quake 2, but yeah. You're very much right about that, though, yeah. But, yeah.
No, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Well, basically, the Cold War, or the third season, was all about Epic Mega Games and, Unreal, the whole Unreal franchise. And I got a lot out of that. I even got through Unreal Tournament, and I compared that to Quake 3, sort of like how Unreal Tournament was more of... it had more of the weapons or the combat gameplay than Quake 3. Quake 3 had more of the movement, even though that was only found out later on when people just found out in very late 90s to early 2000s that you could actually just bunny hop and strafe jump and make yourself faster with that. Although rocket jumping was already a thing.
Quake 2 was the kind of origin of what we now call strafe jumping in Quake, like the super fast-paced movement that we take for granted now, which was originally a mistake. Like it was a bug that became a feature kind of thing.
It was, yeah, because like Quake's physics handling was more advanced. It was handling the physics in all 3 dimensions. It was a fully 3D FPS game. And John Carmack sort of, how would I say, put an oversight to the code that were just like the physics of the rockets just pushed you in all 3 dimensions so that you could actually just plunge yourself upwards with a rocket.
So, what's season 4?
Season 4, it is mainly about Valve Software and their start in the whole FPS genre. It was basically right after Quake was released. Valve Software was founded by Gabe Newell and Mike Harrington, and then they developed what was later becoming Half-Life on their own sort of modified version of the Quake engine. And I already theorized about how Steam wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Quake. Because if Quake didn't exist, basically Gabe Newell and Mike Harrington wouldn't have actually any interest just like going into the gaming industry if Unreal even got delayed later. So there was like
the source engine is based on Quake.
It is, yeah, it is. As well as the Gold Source or the Half-Life 1 engine, yeah. They're all based, and I would believe even Source 2 today has some bits that are very familiar to the Quake engine.
Yeah.
But I didn't go through Half-Life Alyx in this one, though, because it wasn't actually released just yet.
But you will eventually get a VR setup and go all in.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. Maybe after 10 years, I don't know, because it'll be old enough already. But then Season 5, where I'm currently at, is called The Mimics of Success. And it is basically about the clones of Wolfenstein 3D and Doom in the 1990s. And that's going to be very interesting. And I've already developed a hell of a lot of study out of it. Because I first played through Ken's Labyrinth, the first episode of it, not the whole thing. Thank God. The level design is just something else. But then I went through Blake Stone, Aliens of Gold. And then where I'm right now... Oh, actually, yeah, before where I'm right now is Cyclones on episode 46, basically. And that was a sort of FPS game developed by Raven at the same time when they were developing Heretic. What Raven decided to do in the beginning of 1994 was split the company into two teams. The other one was making a sort of a dark fantasy theme first-person shooter on the Doom engine that was later Heretic. And then the other team was developing a sci-fi themed FPS with multiple other very influential features to the FPS genre on the Raven engine, which was the Shadowcaster engine that John Carmack had developed for his research for the Doom engine. And it is just mainly about influential Doom clones. I will probably get to Duke Nukem 3D in that as well, even though I've already completed it. But I will probably do at least one expansion of it, maybe. But I will get to the other build engine games.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't think it's I don't think it's fair to include the 3D Realms stuff and the build engine stuff necessarily as Quake clones, because I feel like that's a whole season on its own, is the Ken Silverman's engine becoming the chief 2.5D technically competitor to the 3D games that were going on at the time, because I think they're so special, right? So you could do a whole season potentially on here's Duke Nukem and then everything that came from it, like Blood, Shadow Warrior, Redneck Rampage, and now and you can even progress to now and say Ion Fury, yada yada yada, and what's become of 3D Realm since then could be an entire thing. I'm not telling you how to do your show. I respect you.
No, that's
sort of fun decision for you, but you could totally just dive deep into the whole logistics of what that engine had and what its impact is on now, because though it is 2.5D, what those games did for modern gaming in general, more people really remember Duke Nukem than a lot of the other stuff we're talking about, right? I think that Duke Nukem personally is a greater impact on the gaming community at large than quote any engine that we're going to talk about, right? Like just him as a character
Yeah.
has so much to say about like where we were at the time versus where we are now,
Yeah.
politically and everything. Like just Duke Nukem is a infinitely fascinating topic that you could get a lot out of. You could milk a lot out of that, I should say. And there's a lot of, each of those games, each of the Build Engine games has like its own expansion packs. And like,
Yeah.
many of them are worth playing. Like many of them are worth exploring, I should say. But I'm not here to tell you how to do your own show, but I would say that you should consider a whole dive into that part of the history of
Yeah.
FPS
Well-
outside of just Doom clone.
Yeah, you're pretty much right. I mean, I sort of did that the first time I played through Duke Nukem 3D in the very first season. How would I say? I sort of compared that to Doom. Well, it was still a sort of a clone at the time because like the term Doom clone was still very much present in the beginning of 1996. It nevertheless just like featured the protagonist, especially just having its own personality. Because Doom Guy, all you heard from Doom Guy is just him grunting from just like humping walls or getting hurt by bullets or fireballs or anything like that. While Duke Nukem 3D had its own personality for sure. Time to crash this party and so on. And yeah, that is very interesting where even story in FPS led to. And where I'm currently at in Golds of FPS is Marathon. And that was sort of the Mac alternative of Doom. It was sort of the Doom clone on the Mac. And that was developed by Bungie in 1984. And Marathon may be the first one to like have its story scattered around all over the levels in just like computer terminals and so on. Basically the lore. And just some like text form on different computers around the level and so on. And it just like it sort of had the adventure element in it. It just like emphasized the story even more, and that's where the story and the purpose, like why you are there, what you're doing there in an FPS game, evolved in.
So we're past the 2-hour mark now. How would you like to kind of wrap it up into a nice, neat bow from here?
Well, I don't know. Let's see. It's very much like what we already talked about. I mean, I have no more notes here. I actually just pretty much talked about everything I needed to. I mean, Golds of FPS. I would have, I would have thought Golds of FPS would take a longer time than this, but yeah.
I think what you've done is very beautiful, and I hope that it continues to grow and flourish, and especially as you through your university pursuits and everything, like kind of gain a better knowledge of where the industry is and what the technology is, that you get better and better at what you do, man. Like I love it, and I think you're great.
Yeah, thank you. But like I'm basically sort of what I believe Booth 342 said in the Doom is Dead podcast is like I'm basically a jack of all trades in the community. I've done midis, I've modded Doom, I've modded I haven't modded much Quake, but I've studied the history of Quake. I've commentated tournaments in Quake and Arena FPS in general, and I've also I haven't like been an official voice actor or anything like that, but I have done some like voice acting on my own, just like some old general, just like ranting about our soldiers and everything like that. I even like did a you don't probably know the Quake machinima, the Seal of Nahara, do you? Well, it's basically it was developed in 2000. It was a 4-hour Quake machinima or a Quake movie, and it consisted of several demos. And the very beginning of the movie basically just has General Blake receiving army grunts in a marine installation, and he was like. There was this enforcer just like delivering the grunts, just like General Blake, your new recruits. And Blake is like, when will they arrive? They're right behind me, sir. I see no soldiers here. Soldiers of the future, sir. They are efficient and infallible, and trigger happy. I will not suffer these Frankensteins wide off to get off from killing. It may be acceptable for other bases, but won't be tolerated here. these things don't understand what it means to be a soldier, or loyalty, or honor, I won't have them here. I will hand my resignation first. It's like stuff like that. Now, I strongly recommend that you and your friends get on out of here before I have you all shot. Now, because I have the accent, I just sort of wanted to experiment with just voice acting and stuff like that. I'm not sure I'm very good at it. I mean, well, it's just me, of course, but like, I'm not sure I'm very good at composing MIDIs either. They're only my covers, but like, I'm not sure how good they are myself. But I've sort of just like practiced a lot in this whole FPS community, I should say. I'm a jack of all trades, to say the least. At least on my own view, yeah.
I think it's going to be very interesting to see you progress over time and where you end up based on the amount of knowledge that you've accumulated over your obsession with the genre itself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very good at just like different things in this community. I don't really know like what I really do best. Do I do best at commentating? Do I do programming, or just like modding Doom better, or anything like that, or just like in general modding? I don't know. It's hard.
How old are you, man?
What? I'm just turning 20 in a week. 21 in a week.
What I'm trying to tell you is, you're at the point in your life when you're supposed to just try everything.
Exactly, yeah, and I've sort of tried that, yeah.
And once you find out what your passion is, what your unique route in life is, and it may be 50 years before you figure that out, whatever that happens to be is going to be something that's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I know that already just talking to you for the brief moments that we spend, together in voice chat and here on the podcast and everything. I know that you're going to do something special, and it's just a matter of you figuring out what that is. And every time I talk to you, I learn something. So that's what really all I have to say to you.
Yeah.
Like,
but
you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's totally fine. But like, I've also been wondering if about the Open League thingy. If it hadn't go down, I'd probably be in the higher ranked Pro League commentators. But like, because of that, I've just like theorized this a bit. I wouldn't have the chance to like meet so many dedicated people in the community, and or maybe I would have had that, but like I wouldn't have time to spend with them all the time, since I've been just like on such a large amount of work, just like at that high position up there in the higher ranks, and I wouldn't even have time for anything else. Basically, I wouldn't be a jack of all trades if I if I was a basically pro player. No, not a player, but like a commentator in the pro league.
The thing to take away from that, I think, is that everything happens for a reason, and whoever the creator of the universe we live in has they have an intention for you that you just don't know yet. So don't worry about it. You're going to be fine.
Yeah, I will.
All right. Peace out, brother.
Thank you.
So the music that you're hearing in the background is Operation Overlord by Kaapeli. He's too humble. His MIDI tracks kick ass, as you can hear. Just gotta send another little kiss, love, hug, salute to all the fantastic folks out there serving in the great militaries of the world. No matter how you ended up there, sometimes you're conscripted, sometimes you're enlisted. I don't give a damn. Whatever it is you do, commissioned. I just gotta say that my heart goes out to you. This is a really fun episode, just getting to kind of reminisce on the origins of the Keep in a lot of ways, like what brought us to this point and how we got here. And Kaapeli was one of the perfect people to try to do that with, because he was there for a lot of it, just kind of simultaneously happening. And if you haven't already, make sure you go check out everything that he mentioned here. Insanity Deathmatch, Multiplayer Doom Federation has been doing some events, on the weekends and whatnot to explore that game, or that mod, I should say, and a lot of good feedback coming through there. Also, if you haven't already, do subscribe to Kaapeli's Twitch channel and check out the Golds of FPS series. he is killing it, man. Like the FPS historian, as we call him. He's doing the work of the drowned god Cathala that I am too lazy and unwilling to do sometimes. So just show him your love. If you're listening to the show and you like it and you want to hear more shows like it, remember that In the Keep does publish a couple of other shows that are very similar but have their own kind of twist. So first of all, we've got Doom is Dead podcast covering the history of multiplayer Doom with hosts Human Bones and Dewsome. Human Bones being the head of the multiplayer Doom Federation. Dewsome also that. Plus, he is a CAC Award committee member, so he has a literal encyclopedic knowledge of all things Doom. We also have Burning Bridges with Bridge Burner, who is killing it, man. I've really liked the first 3 episodes. The first one where I was celebrating New Year's Eve a little too hard and maybe passed out at the end and everyone laughed at me, but I had a good time, and I'm sure everyone else did too. Then he had General VV, Jason Mojica, who is the creator of Proteus on, and the most recent episode, as of this recording, was sit down with James Paddock, the MIDI man himself, Simpletonium, another blossoming Doom mapper, and then Major Arlene, who is legendary. Go give her some love. Make sure you check out her stream and play Technibox Antichrist Color, or whatever the hell her mod is called. Technicolor Antichrist box. It's amazing. You may also hear it described as tab. If you are listening and you'd like to become a supporter of In the Keep, which includes all of those shows, I recommend heading over to inthekeep.com/support. There you'll find all sorts of ways to support the show. There's Patreon. I actually recently made a coffee page, and I set a goal on the coffee page just to see if it would even pick up any steam. Many of you remember Realms Deep, and I had the big Cathala emblem, the sigil of Cathala, if you will, tapestry on my wall. And when we redesigned the logo, we have the fantastic new logo created by Uncle Had. I gotta get a new damn tapestry, so I was just gonna see if we could crowdsource that instead of me having to pay for it, but we'll see what happens, man. I don't know. But if you'd like to support any of that stuff, even just grab some merch, head over to our merch tab on the website, grab a t-shirt, and of course there's Patreon. So I'm going to say a little bit of loving words to everybody who supports us there. Thank you to Paul, Moose, Dots, Zach, Alexander, Brad, Red Eyes, Anthony, Robert, Jack, Brandy, Fred, Lord Revan, Tones, Greg Simon, Immorpher, Flambeau and his wonderful family, Janine. I gotta say I love you to the kiddos there at the Flam Fam. So, mwah, Bram, mwah, Maria. And also to Mike, Zan, and Bridge for supporting the cause, man. Keeping the lights on here, and I love you for it. But the most important way that you can support the show, money is one thing, but spreading the love. So, rate, review, subscribe, comment, like, whatever place you're seeing this at. If it's Twitter, if it's YouTube, if it's you're listening on Spotify, on iTunes, on Google Podcasts, Ghana, to all our wonderful, wonderful fans out there in India, because y'all are like a huge demographic now, and I fucking love y'all. I wish I spoke Hindi, but I don't. So thank you for listening, and please keep supporting the show. You're amazing, all of you, everyone around the world. Peace, love, rockets. I love you. The drowned god Cathala loves you. And until next time, stay in the keep.